Hello everyone, this is Shadow Dragon back with some more Justice League Dark coverage. And this time we're on the live server, so I just wanted to follow up the previous tests that I did here. And sort of give you my review of how this is going now that it's on live with actual traffic. So I'm just playing it from the villain side just for a little bit of variety, but it's mostly the same thing. It's just that in some of the missions you're going to see Magians instead of Sentinels of Magic.
You can't do this to me!
So this zone, like a lot of the more recent episodes, has a pretty efficient open world. Like there are no real bottlenecks. I would say the last episode we had like sort of a bottleneck in was Dailies, because it had a weekly counter that didn't complete naturally. So they fixed that like with Titans by not even having one. Like Titans went back to the bonus where you did like the 5 missions and you got like the weekly bonus. And then Atlantis, they did have a counter, but it wasn't a kill counter. It was a treasure chest one.
Personal space much?
So this episode is kind of similar to Atlantis in that it's not a kill counter. It's more of a collection. That was the one with the magic balls, the Argus mission. And that was the one I was most concerned about on test.
What do you think you're doing?
Because it didn't seem to complete naturally, but either more players logged on will trigger the spawns, or the devs just fixed the spawn rate, or they adjusted it from when it was on test.
What do you think you're doing?
Because it was definitely not on pace to finish when it was on test. But as you play through this on live, it's pretty easy.
What was that about?
Like, you don't even have to binge it on the first day. Even though people are going to group up and do it, but you do come across them. Like, as you do your missions. And as with a lot of development, like, you try to reuse stuff. So the actual nodes for that mission, and let me just actually pull up the mission. It's the Argus anti-magic mission. So you have to collect 54. And they're basically the same nodes as the exobyte nodes in regular Gotham. In the same area of regular Gotham. So if you're used to farming those, you pretty much already know where they are. And you can actually, like, if you don't know where they are, since these spawn more often than the exobyte nodes, if you get familiar with this weekly mission, it'll in turn help you with the exobyte farming in Gotham. So actually, while I'm on here, I'll talk about the other weekly missions. That there are these two here, Podnormus. Now this one is the 8-man. I originally had them flipped. I thought this was the 4-man and the other one was the 8-man. But this one, this is sort of similar to, in Atlantis, you had the trench creatures. Although that was the 4-man, but it's kind of similar to that in that you're fighting the smaller ads first, and then there's a big boss at the end. But it's not split into 2 halves, so you could like join this in the middle and still get credit. Not too bad so far. Like, I mean, we've only had this for 2 weeks, so the population's pretty high for both of these bounties. My only comment on this, I think, is I would have flipped these because Podnormus has a lot less mechanics. There actually are no mechanics. It's just tank and spank, and you know, watch for the skull. For the Demon Lord, though, this one you actually have to pull like the smaller ones to these circles, I'll go into detail more on this one probably in a future video because it definitely deserves its own video. But in short, though, this one is the 8-man, and it has like a ton of mechanics. So I would have actually preferred this one to be the 4-man one and Pod Normus be the 8-man one. But yeah, that's my feedback on that. So yeah, continuing on with these daily missions, I'm gonna do the other ones. The one I just did was the Zatanna mission. So these are pretty efficient in themselves, in that there's a lot of overlap between the three. The Zatanna one may not always overlap the other two, but there's usually overlap between is it Dr. Fate and is it Constantine? And if you have the one for the demons separately, that will pretty much overlap at least one of the other missions. Okay, so we've got Lazy Magents, which is actually pretty funny if you look closely. This is a villain side mission. The hero ones have something with the Sentinels of Magic. But it's pretty funny because they're just like hanging out here.
I'll take my leave then.
Either sleeping or jamming. You see, this guy was probably doing one of the other missions, but the demons overlap. So credit sharing seems to work, I think, with every mission. I haven't come across one where there was a conflict. I think the only conflict may be the weekly, because only one person can touch the nodes. But it's kind of remedied though, because when you finish the mission, you can't collect the nodes anymore, so you won't be like trolling another player. Now there are actually some disadvantages to having like so much overlap.
Oh, no.
I mean, I would say the efficiency outweighs any of that anyway. But like when it's tightly packed, obviously you're going to be killing more than you need to. But this isn't. It's not as difficult as like some of the older zones that were like heavily packed. If you remember like the Villain T4 from Home Turf, like that was pretty tough. And then you had the Star Sapphire zone from one of the Lantern DLCs. But this is relatively easy. Like you could jump into like several mobs and survive it.
Oh no. Do not so fast.
But I guess the main issue I have with a lot of overlap is you're gonna have NPCs like actually taking out other NPCs. So I guess that that could be a pro or a con. Like it's a pro because sometimes you could just swoop in and get the objectives. Like sometimes you'll see the Sentinels of Magic take out the demons, so then all you do is just swoop in and take the objective.
All right. Message received.
But on the flip side though is like other NPCs could actually despawn. Like NPCs you're supposed to take out, and if you don't get to them in time, they'll like just despawn. Like you will definitely come across that. So there will be occasions where you're like flying around and not be able to find an objective, and it could be because other NPCs took it out. But like if that doesn't happen, I would say most of these happen like you can get through these pretty quickly, The only one that may be a bottleneck that's a little bit slower is the one that has like possessed magents on the villain side or possessed sentinels on the hero side. Like those are a little bit more spread out. The villain version doesn't seem to have as many as the heroes. So the villain side is slightly slower in my opinion. If you happen to get that mission.
Demons posing as humans certainly doesn't help the situation.
When order fails, chaos spreads.
The lore we
But so far with this being the newest open world, I think it's actually the best done. Like they took in like feedback and probably traffic data of the other recent DLCs. Because it seems like they went out of their way to really make this like efficient. Each mission gets to the point and everything. So you can actually run a lot of characters or alts through this pretty quickly. But yeah, I just thought I'd follow up with that because I had like the 3 test server videos, which will be linked to from this one in the upper right as well as the end screen. So if you want to do a comparison, you can go back in time and take a look at those. But yeah, that's it from here. There's nothing that complex out here except for possibly that one Demon Lord mission. So I will try to shoot a video for that if I can get an opportunity, because it's kind of too crowded on in the beginning of the cycle, but then towards the end of the cycle it's hard to get a group to actually do like a video shoot for that. But I don't know, we'll see. Thanks for watching, and enjoy Justice League Dark.